Good evening. Eileen, can you please open up the meeting?
Township of Howell Zoning Board of Adjustment, Monday, May 13th, 2024. I hereby declare this meeting of the Howell Township Zoning Board to be open, adequate notice having been given pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act in the following manner. First, on December 11th, 2023, a copy of said notice was mailed to the Asbury Park Press and the Star-Ledger. Second, on December 11th, 2023, a copy of said notice was hand-delivered to the clerk of the Township of Howell. Third, on December 11th, 2023, said notice was posted in the office of the Zoning Board and on the bulletin board in the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9, Howell Township, New Jersey. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code and for your safety, please be advised that this facility is designed with 2 emergency exits at the front and rear of the meeting room. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcasts on Howell Township TV 77. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues of what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and the decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Barillo.
Here.
Mr. Cantor.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Mertens.
Here.
Mr. Roscoe is excused tonight, and Mr. Stant will be coming late. Mr. Ryan is also excused. Ms. Scottson.
Here.
And Chairman Saya.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Will everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Andy, can we have a swearing in of the professionals?
Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Just please state your names for the record.
Charles Cunliffe.
Jennifer Beam, Sherry Spiro.
Your professionals are sworn in.
Thank you, sir. Approval of minutes, regular meeting, April 22nd, 2024. Eligible voters, Barillo, Hughes, Mertens, Orozco, Stanton, Ryan, Scottson, and Saya. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Hughes,
Second.
Barillo. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barillo.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mertens.
Yes.
Ms. Scottson.
Yes.
And Chairman Saya.
Yes.
Minutes approved.
Thank you, Eileen. Eileen, item 6 on the agenda, vouchers. Are there any vouchers?
No vouchers tonight.
All right, how about item 7, correspondence? Do we have any?
I have one thing for correspondence. Application number BA 2211, Aaron Peaker and Yehuda Brown will be adjourned to a later date with notice.
Mr. Chair, if I could just, this application is a 2022 application, and it has been taking up space on our agenda and then carrying at the 11th hour for years now. My recommendation is that the board approve this adjournment, but if they're not ready to go, I think in July or whenever they come back, then we should dismiss them and then they can reapply when they're actually ready to go, because they're taking up space on an agenda that somebody else could have taken up. So it's been,
So when do we just dismiss this application?
I would recommend that the board grant this adjournment and say, this is it. If you don't come ready to go the next time, we're going to dismiss the application. And then if he wants to come back, they can reapply and start the process over again. But
What date do we recommend to give them?
I think they just asked Eileen indefinitely, right, to carry with renotice?
Yes, they asked for a date in June or July, which it probably would be more of a date in August. So
All right, so let's do 31 August. And if they're not ready at that point in time, almost 3 years later, we'll dismiss the application.
And we should, I mean, Andy, I guess, can you reach out to Ken Pape and just let him know
I
that
will
that's the
communicate.
dismission?
Yeah, I will communicate that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, great. Thank you. So anyone that's here for the case number BA 22-11, Pika Braun, this application is going to be carried to August 31st, and with
They're going to renotice.
they're going to renotice.
yes.
Okay, with renotice, thank you. Okay, case number BA 24-04, Nicholas Morocco. This is a use construction of swimming pool and patio and front yard on through lot. Application of Nicholas Morocco as applicant and owner seeking bulk variance approval to construct an in-ground swimming pool within the front yard area of an R2 zone. The property is a through lot with frontage on both Pemberton Place and Howell Road.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt. We have Secudis Realty on first.
Well, do we want to move that? Okay.
Sorry, it's up to you. I just don't.
It's extension of time? Okay,
Yes.
we're gonna,
Do we need 7 for that, or we're gonna,
No.
that's up to,
no,
okay.
we're good with 6 then, okay. Case number BA 18-31, Secudis Realty LLC, extension of time, application of Secudis Realty LLC as owner and applicant seeking extension of time through January 11, 2025 for the previous approved use variance, bulk variance, and preliminary and final major site plan on premises known as Block 183, lots 113.01, 115, 116.01, 116.02, 113 on Highway 34.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Vince Halloran from Freehold on behalf of the applicant. My client, John Secudis, is here, as is his engineer, Walt Hopkin.
Okay. Andy, we're good?
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay. Do we want to swear in Mr. Secudis
Why don't you come up?
and the engineer?
Mr. Hopkin first. You want to swear them both
At the same time, that'll be good, yes.
You swear the testimony you'll give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Please state your names for the record.
John Secudis.
Walter Hopkin.
Okay.
And Mr. Hopkin, if you're testifying as a professional engineer, you should,
Probably put your credentials on the record, sir.
Yeah.
Sure, I have a Bachelor of Science from Drexel University. I'm a licensed engineer in the states of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. I have had the pleasure of testifying before you previously and surrounding communities.
Great, we'll accept your credentials.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Walt, would you tell the board what the status of the application is and what the basis is of our request for an extension?
Sure, so as the board looks a little different than we were in 2020, received approval in 2021, January 11th, 2021. The approval had a time frame stipulated in it to get approvals. It took us much longer than expected to get those outside agency approvals. We did our best to update the board's professionals as far as the status, kind of as they came in. We forwarded them to the board. I think we're in a position where we have all of our outside agency approvals. I think we've made all plan revisions requested by your professionals, and would just request an extension that we can act on those approvals and do the work.
Great. Jen?
How long?
It's up to,
I mean,
What are you asking?
well, that's what I'm saying. How long are you asking for? Because if the board recalls, we had to drag these guys here. Like, you guys kept carrying. You were a code issue. We finally got you before us. It took a very long time to get through the process. This is a 2018 application. And here we are in 2024, and we're still a 2021 approval, and it's 2024, and you're asking for more time. So how long are you asking?
Well, the application was for the statutory 2-year request, but,
I mean, but it's going to be retroactive, right?
oh, yeah.
So I just, this site has been a problem from the outset. It's not like you worked with us collaboratively or cooperatively. You came in here after we told you, come in or we're going to dismiss you with prejudice. That's how you came before us, because you kept carrying. And you weren't the one that represented him. Mike Vidiello was the one that represented him.
Thank you.
So at the end of the
No, it
day,
wasn't me.
we dragged you in here almost against your will. We battled back and forth, and you finally got an approval, and here we are 3 years later, and you're still not done. So I don't know, if you're saying to me that you have all your outside agency approvals done, why do you need a year to get construction started?
I can't answer that, Mr. Chairman. I'm just the engineer.
Mr.
I
Sekudas?
want as much time as I can to do it properly, but I want to start immediately. I already started. I cleaned up all of the 50-foot buffers, all cleaned, all the containers are gone, all the tents are gone. The berm is up. I closed Route 33 exit. I removed all the containers from Route 33, all the trailers, so that's phase 2, I believe. Phase 1 is the DEP replantation. I've been back and forth with the DEP recommended tree, whatever you want to call them, arborists or whatever. We cannot find the plantings. That's a big deal. That being said, Toll Brothers held me up for the hooking up the sewer and water. And then I had a delay of maybe almost 13 or 14 months for one other DOT that I think, Charlie, you know about that one, where we had a small delay on that. It was difficult to go proceed when I didn't have everything.
Yeah, so I think what Jen is trying to reiterate from the board's perspective is, right, so the approval was in 2021, January 11th, right? You're allowed 2 years per the statutory timeline for the approval, and then you're allowed 3 additional 1-year extensions. Normally, an applicant would come in for a 1-year extension. That would only take them through to January 1st of 2024, so we're already behind that. They're here asking for 2 1-year extensions to get it through to January 11th of 2025. They've submitted some additional documents, resolution compliance. Preliminarily, I talked to Sherry, and I'll let her see if she has any concerns. It looks like what they've submitted is like closing up all the loose ends. I think the board's, Jen's concern and the board's concern at the time was, especially with some of the neighbors,
Well, the neighbors, let me just stop you though. The neighbor it was 4 or 5 years ago. He hasn't had an issue with water at all.
Respectfully,
He hasn't.
I just stopped.
So, and the application arose from, like, acres of woods being cleared without permits and millings being placed down and stormwater and all this kind of stuff. So, I think from the board's perspective, the extension only guarantees the site plan approval still being valid and they can perfect it. What guarantees do we have from the board's perspective that all this stuff that was done without approvals and trees cleared and millings put down, that it's going to be done in a timely manner?
Same guarantee you had the first time, that I'm going to do it. I sold my business. My business is gone. That's what you wanted. You ultimately wanted the garbage bins removed from the property. That's gone. Now I want to perfect it. I want to beautify the land, make it a beautiful part. I own the property. I have no issue doing the work. I just want the extension, that's all. I want some time to do it. I have to find the plantings. I can't make them. Or we can change them if we can. I don't know if that's possible, if we can. I think you talked to my consultant, Rick Zaffelli. You would come to the property and walk it with us. If I'm speaking in line on that, I think you said that.
Rick's, I did see Rick on another site, and he mentioned he was working with you, but he said you guys would reach out to me, so I did not reach out to you to make an appointment.
I thought you guys had already set it up. I definitely come there, show us what we can and can't do. If we can find these somewhere else, I don't mind it.
So I do think, though, it also has to go through DEP, because that part of the
Sure,
plan
yes.
is approved by them.
You will be a big part of that, though, if you approve that. But other than that, I want to hook up my sewer and water immediately. I want to do Route 33 immediately and proceed.
John?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, not, my zone officer.
It's up, I would agree with Jen. Let's get this thing moving.
Are we moving in the right direction?
From what I can see, there's been some movement on the property. If they're ready to go, then I don't see what the holdup.
Well, a two single-year, 1-year extensions brings us to January 11th, 2025. They're going to be entitled to one more. Do we just want to go out to that and end it? Or
No,
just-
I think you should just do one, and if they're not done, they have to come back and explain why.
Okay.
Because this has been dragging on forever.
Okay, we're good. So what's the pleasure of the board on the extension? Okay, well, it's 2 1-years. That brings us to a January 11th, 2025. Okay. Do we have a motion?
We have a motion. We have a motion.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. This is to extend to a January 11th, 2025, extension of time for Secudis Realty. That works for you, sir?
Thank you.
Wait, we're not done. Eileen,
So 2 1-year extensions to January 2025.
roll call, please.
Mr. Barillo?
Yes.
Mr. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Mertens?
Yes.
Ms. Scottson?
Yes.
And Chairman Syed?
Yes. Okay.
you very
You
much.
got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing you all, good night.
Okay, we're back to case number BA 24-04.
I think I did the links like 9 times.
This is Nicholas Morocco. Use construction of swimming pool and patio in front yard on through lot. Application of Nicholas Morocco as applicant and owner seeking bulk variance approval to construct an in-ground swimming pool within the front yard area of the R2 zone. The property is a through lot with frontage on both Pemberton Place and Howell Road. The variance plan provided by the applicant depicts a proposed in-ground swimming pool with associated equipment and paver patio in the Howell Road front yard area on premises known as Block 165.10, Lot 3.02, 66 Pemberton Place, expiration July 2nd, 2024. Who do we have in front of us?
Nicholas Morocco.
Sir, and?
Kimberly Gianfrancesco.
Will you both be testifying?
We were married. We were both on
Okay.
the application.
We're both on that.
So I'll swear.
Okay. Do you want to just,
Yeah. Sorry.
do we want to swear them both in?
And if you sit, those prison things on, those are mics too.
Oh, so that's it, okay.
Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
And then please state your names for the record and spell your last.
Sure. First name Nicholas, last name Morocco, Muraco.
Kimberly Gianfrancesco, Gianfrancesco.
Good thing we asked. Just saying. It's a lot of letters.
Okay, so you're here, sir. You have the professionals, they have reviewed your plans. Charlie?
Oh, here, okay.
Yeah, so the property is in a subdivision off of Howell Road. It's a through lot, so it has technical frontage on two right-of-ways. On Howell Road to the rear, so it's technically a front yard, but it's a practical rear. The front yard of the dwelling is on Pemberton Place. The applicant filed a plot plan permit and is seeking variance approval to construct a pool in the technical front yard. It's technically a front yard, but it's a practical rear. There's a patio surrounding that. I think we also had some questions regarding some of the additional infrastructure that has been existing there. I think there's already a patio at the back of the structure, and we questioned looking at aerials. It looked like there might be an additional standalone like shade canopy structure. The applicant subsequently submitted some pictures. Speaking with Mr. Aguiar, before the meeting, he indicated he didn't have anything in his record for permits for that. So I would just say if the board's gonna act on this application in an affirmative manner, that we also grant the approval for the shade canopy as an accessory structure in the front yard as well. Really, I think it complies with all bulk requirements as are required for pools as far as the setback to sidewalks or, the perimeter sidewalk around the pool and everything like that. We're really just here because the uniqueness of the lot, it's a through lot, so.
It's a
this
through
was-
lot, that's
yeah.
correct. Okay, got it.
So-
Jen?
I agree, and I think we have repeatedly put comments in our annual report about corner lots and through lots about these very issues and how we should consider the governing body changing the requirements because while technically it's a front, it's their backyard. So I don't have any issues associated with allowing them to put in a pool with the associated fencing because it is their backyard. So, and I don't think it's egregious in terms of the size of it, and I agree with Charlie that it's compliant with all the bulk standards, so, they're here because their lot is unique, that's all.
Thank you. Okay, board members, any questions?
No.
Okay, do we want to open this up to public? Okay, can we have a motion to open to public?
Motion to open public.
We got a motion, do we have a second? Second. We got a second. Eileen, we're opening to public on this particular application, which is BA 24-04.
The board will now be open to the public. If you have comment, please come up. State your name and your address.
Okay, we don't see anybody coming up.
Motion to
So,
close.
We got a motion to close. Do we have a second?
Second.
We're closed. Eileen, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The board is now closed to the public.
Thank you. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We got a second. Eileen?
Mr. Barillo?
Yes.
Mr. Cantor?
Yes, good luck. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Mertens?
Yes, and this is probably the quickest application approval since I've been on the zoning board.
Appreciate it.
Ms. Scottson?
Yes.
And
And I
Chairman
think we should all be
Saya?
And Mr. Say, before you put your vote on the record, I just want a couple comments just to make sure there is part of the approval that they're going to have to get any building permit approvals as far as like fence around the pool, make sure it's compliant with the swimming pool code. You
The
know.
shade canopy has to be as part of it as well because
Yeah,
it's
just get any
reversed, yes,
retroactive
yes.
permits as may be required. Any backwash, it be either like a cartridge system or be directed towards the public right-of-way, not onto neighboring properties. Drainage pattern, same thing to the right-of-way, not onto neighboring properties. And then I just had one more. So construction access, I'd recommend that it be from Pemberton Place and not from Howell Road, just because Howell Road's pretty heavily trafficked, and that any curb and sidewalk that may become damaged just be replaced. And then obviously, the construction access revegetated. Those just be conditions of the approval.
Sir, can you comply with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So in that case, all of that will be on the record in the resolution, and I say yes, I vote yes, and have a good time. Okay? Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a good night.
Good luck.
All right, thank you, take care.
Can't get on any of them. I've tried that. It's crazy.
Because they reboot the server, so all the links I made prior to them keep rebooting. Don't
Do we
work.
need 5
So
before
I
this?
keep remaking them and they keep rebooting the server, because not just texting, but then I wrote all the
Oh, yeah.
Because I made the links and then I updated it with, I made. Because they keep.
We're going to take Eileen, we're going to take 10. I'm going to reach out to Mr. Stanton and see if we can get a 7th.
Okay.
Okay?
The board will now take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 7:35.
Thank you. Okay, Eileen, we're ready to start.
The board will now reconvene.
Thank you. Up in front of the board is case number BA-19, Restoration Family Worship. It's a conditional use variance, preliminary, and final major site plan and bulk variance relief. Description: application of Restoration Family Worship as applicant and owner seeking conditional use variance and preliminary and final major site plan approval with bulk variance relief to remove the existing 2,100 square foot one-story dwelling, the existing parking lot and driveway entrances on Lot 6. They are also proposing to construct a 3-story, 6,586 square foot church with basement, an expanded parking area, stormwater management basin, conveyance system, and associated site improvements on premises known as Blocks 77, Lots 3.04 and 6, Church and Kent Roads, expiration May 31, 2024. Mr. Alfieri.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Salvatore Alfieri, Cleary, Giacobi, Alfieri, and Jacobs on behalf of the applicant. We've been, I guess, our most recent submission was April 29th of 2024. We've been working with the board professionals in an effort to address as many technical issues that were raised during the course of this application process, which is going on for some time now. We're at the point now where we think we have the best plan we could present to the board. It does require variance relief that we'll get into, obviously, during the course of the testimony. We have 4 witnesses that we're going to be presenting. Also, because the lot is undersized, we did buy-sell letters back last year to the adjacent property owners. 2 of them never responded, and the 3rd responded no interest in selling or buying. So I'm going to submit these to Andy, so at least you have them for the record.
Do you have to sign them? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
The board secretary is going to sign off on them. So, Mr. Alfieri,
Yes, sir.
you know, we have 6 sitting board members tonight. Does the applicant wish to proceed when they're entitled to have 7?
Yes, I did discuss it with Pastor Glenn, and many of their parishioners are here. They would like to proceed tonight, and we'll see how far we can get and how it goes, and hopefully conclude it tonight. If not, we'll get as far as we can.
Are we going to hear from Pastor Glenn tonight?
Only if you want to.
I would like to hear from Pastor
Okay.
Glenn tonight.
Okay, we'll
Okay.
introduce him. We'll let Brian Murphy, our engineer, orient the board and get through all the engineering, and then we can bring Pastor Glenn up, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I got to make sure you're all right coming up, right? He's all right.
Good.
All right, so we're going to request that Mr. Murphy be sworn in, please.
Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name for the record, spell your last.
Brian Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y. 1856 Route 9, Toms River. Principal at FWH Associates. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I've been before this board and roughly 100 other boards throughout the state over the course of my career.
Graduated where?
NJIT.
Okay, we accept your credentials.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And Mr. Murphy, your office prepared the plans that have been submitted in support of the application, and you've been involved since the inception, is that correct?
I have.
Okay. There's an exhibit up on the board that I guess is the aerial. Do you want to orient the board as to where this property is located? And also, can you give a little history of this property and the use?
Sure. So this is a 2.6 acre site. What you're looking at is Google Earth aerial map of the site. The site is indicated in red in the middle of the site. That road that's along the south side, that is Church Road. For a little history, Church Road is named after this church, Bethel Church. It's roughly 120 years old. This area to the west of the church is all a cemetery. The cemetery actually comes right up to the right-of-way currently. Obviously, it's an old cemetery, probably before this road wasn't much more than a path. To the east side, you have Kent Road, and this is the Goddard School in the back of the Walmart. You have to the north is a single-family house. To the west, as you can see, the single-family house to the west is kind of way northwest of the site. There's a wetland corridor that comes down in this area, so that's why this area is still completely wooded. And then obviously you have the cemetery that expands over to the adjacent lot as well. Currently, the applicant is conducting church in the building roughly in the middle of the site. We were before the board previously in 2004 for another site over on Kent Road. That site was lost, and someone else owns that property now. We came in 2019 on this site to add bathrooms to the annex, and those were constructed back then. And the building that you see to the north is a single-family residence. That's the pastor's home. It's basically going to act as the rectory, and we're going to wind up combining these lots into one lot. So it's going to be one complete site. Can you go to the next slide, please? This is a color rendering of the plan that was submitted to the board. We're going to have access. We're going to get rid of the existing accesses that are there now. Right now, you come in off of Kent Road and go out onto Church Road right by this intersection. It's not great by any means. So we're going to have a two-way access roughly in the middle of the site, and then a one-way in at the current driveway location, and that'll come in basically, give you access into the site. The fire department requested that we provide a emergency access still at the end of this out to Church Road, so that's why that's there at the fire department's request. The new building is going to be kind of at the larger width of the property, and basically oriented kind of towards the roadway, and out very close and adjacent to the existing house. The existing shed that's on the property, and there's some other trash structures and so forth along this west area of the boundary. That's all within the technical buffer area. That's all going to be removed and replanted. So and the existing parking lot currently is substantially in that buffer area as well, to the residential lots to the west. So that'll be removed as well. So the only thing that's going to remain in the buffer area is there's a walkway in the back of the new building that's just emergency egress. And there's going to be a pad for 2 RoboCans, because it really doesn't generate much trash with this use.
Is there going to be a traffic engineer that's
Yes.
also?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good, okay.
Brian, can I just interject?
Sure.
So your plans, there's zero reference in your plans to that pad where the shed and those structures are located. There's no reference that that's being removed in your plans at all.
Okay, well, we'll add that, and that's
And
my
then-
testimony that we're going to remove that.
And then I would recommend that you work with Shari because there's no landscaping proposed in that area either.
Certainly. The new building coverage, 20% is permitted. We're going to be at 9.1%, so a little less than half. The impervious coverage, 50% is permitted, and we're going to be at 36.7%, so again, well under what's required. The church will hold 318 seats. If you go to the next exhibit, please.
Before you do?
Sure.
So I don't believe any of these, Ms. Sal, I don't think any of these are marked, right? So we may want to at least, because the aerial, the first exhibit was an aerial exhibit,
Yes.
right? So that's A18.
18, correct.
But I don't think, if you go back one,
We
Like-
stopped, my notes showed we were stopped at A19 last time I was given the list of exhibits. I don't know if that's been updated.
there's A20, which are architectural floor plans and elevations, and that's the last one.
Okay, so then the buy-sell letters should be A21?
Yep.
And then this plan, Brian, could you identify the plan you were just discussing?
Sure, it is, let's get the sheet number. Sheet 4, site plan. It's basically just color rendering of the site plan that was submitted to the board.
That would be A22 then?
That's 22.
Okay.
There is an A17, which is a site plan rendering consisting of one sheet.
Yeah, we've
Yeah, I
updated.
think that we updated it, so this should be a
Okay.
new one.
So 22 replaces 17.
Yes.
And then 23, is,
We didn't get to 23 yet.
The
Okay.
23 would be the new architectural elevation and floor plan.
Well, no, it was A20 they marked, if that's the new ones.
It was dated 4/26, the architectural plans,
Yes.
under
Yes,
A20,
yes,
so if that's
okay,
the right
so-
date.
So that can stay A20, yes.
That's
okay.
fine. Okay, Brian.
And
so-
then what would be, then there's a color rendering of the building as well. And
Right, But
that'd be A.
that Rick is going to bring.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do that when he comes up.
Okay.
Just so you could, in case you have more.
Okay.
So we're going back now to A22, right?
Uh,
That's exhibit?
One more to
That's
the,
A22 that's up there.
and go one more, the second page of this. Oops, sorry, back one. And there should be a second page of this. There we go.
Can we go back to the parking? Did you talk about the parking?
The traffic engineer's going to talk about the parking.
The number of spaces and how they're designed?
I can talk about that, sure.
So you want to talk about the 5 tandem spaces?
Sure,
Or 6 tandem
I'll get to the
spaces?
parking and the access and everything else.
Okay.
I just wanted to go through the floor plan in each floor and the hours of operation, exactly what we're doing here. So the first floor is composed,
Well, wait,
oh, yeah, sorry, yes,
wait, has that been marked? And if not, we need to mark.
yes, that was,
That was A20?
yeah.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So we're looking at A20. Go ahead. Architectural floor plans and elevations.
Yeah, that's A20. The architect's going to talk about the architecture of the building, but I just wanted to go what we're doing on each floor, and then the hours of operation, just so it's on the record and everyone knows exactly what's going to be happening within the building and on the site. So the first floor is the main sanctuary, that's the upper left, and the pastor's office, then obviously some restrooms there as well. The second floor, which is to the right, much of this is open down to the main sanctuary area, and then there's a mezzanine for the choir and additional seating. But there's also the Sunday school office, the youth office, and the sound engineer's office is also there, and obviously the videotech and sound studio as well. The third floor, which is there we go. The third floor is basically for the baptisms. These are different than what you may be used to. Baptisms are more of an adolescent to adult, so it's 12 years and up typically, and I'll go over when those occur. And there's also the security office and additional staff offices for the church functions on that floor as well. In the basement level, which is your bottom right, right there, which is on the bottom right, there's the Sunday school classrooms. There's a warming kitchen, and that's not for cooking. It's basically maybe a microwave so that you can get a bottle ready for a baby or something during services and warm up something. We're not looking to have a chef here. And they do coffee and donuts and so forth before church as well. The multi-purpose room is just that. During Sunday school, sometimes the kids will be out of the classroom into one room for service, and then also that they have prayer groups and so forth during the week, and I'll go over the hours of those. That would also use this multi-purpose room. And then we also have the food pantry as well, down on that level also. The hours of operation, so that the church has one service on Sunday, and it's from 9:30 to noon. We have youth groups, women's groups, and Bible study. They're typically on Tuesday and Thursday, and they go 7:30 to 9 p.m. We'd like the flexibility, obviously, to change the day, but we wouldn't change the hour any later than 9 o'clock. So it'd be 7:30 to 9 o'clock. The rectory, obviously, is the pastor's house. The food bank would only be on Saturday AMs, and that's not every Saturday, it's occasional. The baptisms only occur on Saturdays, and it's typically once every 3 months. So it's not all that common, but it does occur, obviously. Outdoor events on the first day of football Sunday, they typically have a tailgate get-together for the congregants. It's basically an hour and a half after Mass. Everyone just kind of gets together and meet and greet kind of thing. Currently, the number of congregants is roughly 150 people. As I indicated, the lots will be consolidated. Sewer and water, the new church will be completely serviced by public sewer and water. That's readily available on the site. The existing smaller church that already has sewer and water to it. The house is currently on septic and well, so we could connect that to sewer if the board would rather that.
Charlie?
So, and just to add to that, so I think it's the engineering department's recommendation that the dwelling be required to connect to public water and sewer.
Okay.
That's fine.
Can we do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
fine. That's fine.
Brian, can you go back to the tailgate? Where exactly do you anticipate that happening?
That's actually in the parking lot. So basically, it's just that. It's like, you just go out in the parking lot, you pop your trunk, get your chair out, and everyone just kind of congregates for an hour and a half.
So I'm going to go back to your testimony about the trash.
Sure.
So you have a warming kitchen, you have these events, all of these things generate trash, which probably is more than a regular garbage pail worth. So I'm concerned about the lack of refuse and recycling, because this is not a house, this is so if someone has a baptism and they're having a little thing in the multipurpose room, even if the warming kitchen is just there to warm things up, people are bringing things, those things require to be thrown out, and so I don't think a pail is going to cut it.
And we can go to 2 or 3 pails. They operate currently out of where they're at, obviously at a much smaller scale.
Well, that's my point.
But, it's not like they don't know how their functions operate. So,
I get it, Brian, but what I don't want to have happen is the garbage pail's full, stuff is stacked next to the garbage pail, which is fully visible from Kent Road and Church Street and Church Road, and it becomes litter blowing here, there, and everywhere, things running down the road. You know, I get the not wanting to put an enclosure, because quite honestly, I don't know where you would put it on the site, but I do not think one garbage pail and one recycling pail is gonna be okay. And where exactly would these pails be stored?
So we'll do four pails and 2 recyclables.
And where would they be put?
It's right in the, can you go back to the site plan again? Sorry. There's a sidewalk that runs along the back of the building, and there's a pad right in the back. So it's right off that back sidewalk. So that's where,
Is that big enough?
that's where it's located.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna have to get bigger.
Right.
How many
Yeah.
days a week is there's pickup?
As probably once a week.
Okay.
If they needed more than that, obviously they would schedule that, but I can't see it being more than once a week. Because it would only, the main events would only happen on the weekend typically, so to be sufficient.
So, and is it private hauler picks up the trash and recycling, and they come into the site to do that, or?
Correct.
Okay.
They would come in and pick up.
So they're not gonna just be left like out on the right of way on the frontage?
No,
for
no,
lockers?
no, there's no, Kent Road, obviously, it's not conducive to that.
We would request, should the board act in the affirmative, that the plans be revised to show a larger pad. And I want that pad screened, like with a fence or something, so that the cans go in that area and they're contained within that area so that it doesn't wind up all over the place.
6 cans?
You said 4
4
plus
and
2,
2,
right?
right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Everything will be accessible. As far as access, I kind of went through it already, but it's going to be two-way access roughly in the middle of the site. That's directly across from the Goddard School entrance, so it lines up with that entrance. The other entrance is where the current driveway is, so that would be one-way in. Then we have basically two-way out. And as I indicated, we have the fire department emergency connection down by Church Road.
Brian, before you move off of that, can you just talk about, because the rectory is still going to have a driveway from
Yes.
Kent Road. So, and that still connects into the rest of the parking area.
Yes.
How is that going to function during services, before and after? Are there any kind of provisions that can be put in so that's not operating as like a full-service in and out driveway?
Well, we're treating it as a one-way in at that point. So it's going to be improved to a roadway section.
Okay.
Up to where the parking lot comes. So it'll be an 18-foot one-way in, which is more than enough for a one-way in.
Okay.
And then I'll go into the parking in a moment. But
And there'll be proper signage, do not enter and all that. We'll need the traffic engineer to
Okay.
explain
Yeah,
it all to
absolutely.
us.
And
yes.
then the last thing, just before you move off of that, so there's an emergency access from Church Road, right? And that's as required and requested from the fire official, right?
Correct.
So, but there's like a little unique shaped bulb at the end of that.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can add some additional striping, fire lane striping, just so that's not becoming like an overflow?
An impromptu parking lot, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hatch that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You can continue, thanks.
You're taking notes.
So Brian?
So on Kent Road, it's required to have a 30 feet from center line. There you go. So we're providing that, but we're doing it as an easement, just because obviously the sites are already encumbered by the odd shape and the tightness of between the buffers and the cemetery and existing buildings, and the odd shape of the property. So we're providing an easement along Kent Road to provide that full 30. We're also providing sidewalk and curb along Kent Road as well. All the drainage runs down Kent Road and then down Church Road along the gutter line. Nothing's coming into the site. For Church Road, it's not feasible to give any property, only because, as I indicated, this cemetery plots are actually right up against the current right-of-way. And the existing church is only 14 feet off the right-of-way as
The
it is.
Coptic Church gave us a right-of-way, and that's how you got the third lane coming for the right-hand turn onto,
Yep,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring the sidewalk around that bend and up to the sidewalk that goes into the church. the old church, let's say. But it's not feasible to extend it any further because there are cemetery plots right there.
But you can cross Church and get onto the sidewalk
Absolutely.
that's there.
Yes.
Or on the Kent side, so they go walk around to Walmart and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, you can go either direction.
Jen, we're going to improve the sidewalks.
I agree, and then the applicant would just have to contribute in the fund for the frontage that they're not providing the sidewalk along.
Well, he says bringing it around, but okay, I got it.
Well, I mean, technically, he's required to do it the extent of both of his frontage, so he's not doing it for his
Yeah,
full
yeah,
frontage.
where the cemetery is.
Right, so
Okay,
he
I
has
got
to
it.
pay for the balance.
Are we good with that, Brian?
Sure.
Thank you.
With regard to parking, we're proposing 63 stalls. 55 are in the main church parking lot that you see in the darker gray. And then we have 2 in the garage, and then we're going to stack 6 out in that back out area. And that's only for staff parking. It's not going to be people coming in. It's only going to be staff parking in that area, so them being stacked isn't an issue at that point. They'll coordinate that amongst themselves to be able to get in and out. We have 2 handicap stalls up front closest to the building. It's fully accessible into the building from there. We're required 112 stalls technically, and that's including everything happening at the same time, which is not what's happening. So at the full congregation of 318 seats, we need 80 parking stalls.
So, and Brian, the traffic engineer, is
Yes.
going to talk about how those stacked parking spaces and how that functions and operates during services and things like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't give you a heads up that I have significant issue with those, especially the 2, because you cannot get out if the other 4 parking spaces are full.
No.
So I'm not a huge fan of tandem parking in general, and this configuration is not winning me over.
It's only because it's staff. Obviously, if
I
it was
get it,
anyone else,
but
it would work.
regardless, like, let's say a staff person in the middle of service gets a call that there's an emergency, and they're in one of those 2 parking spaces, they can't get out. And so I just think that you're significantly underparked to begin with, and this is just trying to get as many parking spaces as you can, but I don't think that those parking spaces are realistic. So I know John is here, and I know he's listening to what I'm saying, but those 2 spots, I just think you guys need to get rid of them.
Okay.
And I'll just say for the board's record, so in our review letter, we didn't count them as parking spaces being provided. We counted only the 55 parking spaces in the actual balance of the site for that same reason, because I don't think our ordinance technically allows stacked parking spaces. There's kind of devoid of saying anything about it.
Can we improve it to angle parking versus stack?
I don't think that's really going to give you much benefit there. It's a residential driveway that's, Brian, how wide did you say the driveway was?
18.
18 feet. So, I mean, putting in an angle parking space isn't going to give you still what the aisle width you need to be able to kind of pull in and out of that. And angle parking is really only for like one way, so, you're still having to back out onto the right of way.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's going to come down to, let's hear Mr. Ray, let's hear operational testimony and how that's going to function and how they're going to operate it and how frequently is it happen. It's not 24/7, it's during the services, so.
Yeah. I already went over the trash. As far as lighting, the lighting complies with the ordinance. The lights will go down at 9:30 PM during the week. Obviously after those 9 o'clock prayer sessions and Sunday school, and they'll be shielded from the residential side of the property. Again, the stormwater will be privately owned and maintained. With regard to the waivers, we have a 30-foot circulation aisle required. We have 25 provided. A 25-foot drive aisle, and we have 24 provided. Again, the fire department had no issue with the drive aisle widths, so I would ask for that waiver to be granted, and it's typical to have a 24-foot aisle as well. No parking or loading within the 50-foot buffer. This exists only up in this area. Technically, that church that's across the street to the south, that's still a residential zone, so we still have to have technically a residential buffer to that zone, even though it's a church. So that's along that south end, so it's a waiver that we're looking for there. The 50-foot buffer between proposed uses, again, that's that sidewalk that's back here behind the building and the trash cans. Street trees every 40 to 60 feet. We'll provide that along Kent Road, and we'll provide it for a portion of Church Road, but obviously where the cemetery is, we can't do that because the plots are there. The parking stalls, 19 feet depth is required. We have 18. I would ask that we provide bumper blocks up by the old church rather than bollards, just for those couple stalls there.
There's a reason that the ordinance requires bollards, and the bumper blocks do not stop a car from hitting a structure, which has happened here in town multiple times. The reason that that requirement is in the ordinance is to prevent that. So that, I would not recommend that the board grant that relief. I mean, if you guys remember, the car went right through the Stewarts and almost took out like 5 people. So,
And then we
and it went right over the curb blocks to get in there, so.
And then we also had the physician that got crushed.
Correct.
Yeah,
So the
storefront.
bollards are there specifically because we've had events here. I understand that it's probably not the most aesthetic situation, but safety trumps aesthetics. So I would say that I would not support relief of that the bollards go in.
So, and I just want to add, Brian, so there's no direct parking immediately abutting the old church, right?
No.
So that, the
I think
comment
that- I think
about-
that was to that.
That may be an old comment from the prior iterations of plan, that you've had parking like literally
Yeah, right
abutting.
there.
So I would take no exception to that not being provided with the current layout, because there's no parking immediately abutting the church. Yeah, what they had previously, it was like right
Up
to
against the old church.
Yeah, so I don't see a need for the bollards to be provided.
I also, before you move forward, I also, the trash pad is one thing that's in the buffer, but your access and the sidewalk out to church is also in the residential buffer, because it's to residentially zoned property, which the property across Church Road is. And you show it on your plans, actually.
Yeah, that across Church Road where the church is.
Correct, so the emergency access and the sidewalk is also in the buffer.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. On page 10 of the T&M letter dated May 10th, I think I addressed a lot of the comments, and the technical comments, I all agree with all the comments in the T&M letter. I already went through the sidewalks. Page 10, item 26 is regarding the EV parking, so we'll provide the required EV parking on the site, so that'll be an additional 2 EV stalls that'll be required. Page 12, item 36, we did get the review from the fire, and as indicated, they wanted the connection to the south, and they wanted fire lane striping and the typical fire comments, but that was the main comment in the fire letter, so we'll comply with their letter. The CME letter, May 7th, 2024, items 1A and 1B were in the waivers that I indicated. The rest of the letter I have no problem addressing. The Avakian letter, May 7th, 2024, I've addressed kind of the engineering-related comments, but obviously the traffic engineer and architect and planner still have to talk to some of the other comments in the letter. The fire letter, as I indicated, I agree with. The farm advisory letter, I had no comment. The environmental commission letter, their only comment was to provide the EV stalls, which we're providing. We have soil erosion approval, and that's my testimony.
Great. Charlie, we're good with stormwater management?
Yeah, the prior iteration of the plans, they were pretty much good to go. There's some minor stuff that just needs to tweak with the calculations, but it's all stuff I'm confident we can do as a
Great.
condition of the approval.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Mr. Alfieri?
Pastor? You can either sit here or stand there, whatever is best for you.
I understand.
Okay.
Hey, sir.
Look to your left first.
Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name for the record, spell your last.
Pastor Glenn Wilson, last name Wilson.
And Pastor, what's your affiliation with the church?
I am the senior pastor,
And how long have you been affiliated with the church?
30 years.
And you heard Mr. Murphy describe the church as being over 100 years old, and the church name of the road was after this. You're familiar with all that?
Yes, sir.
And that's accurate?
It's accurate, and in the next 5 years, it's going to be named after me.
Now, if one of the things that our professionals, is particularly our traffic experts, going to get into when he comes up is the fact that if you take every individual component of the multiple uses that are on the site and you added up the parking requirement, the parking is a significant number. But because you have everything happening at one time and people are on site at one time, can you describe how that all operates? Like on a Sunday primarily, that's your peak time.
Okay. So we currently have three meetings a week. Sunday mornings, from 9, we just made it shorter, from 9 to 11. On Tuesday nights, we have our Bible studies, and that takes place from 7 to 9. And on Thursday night, we have our prayer service, and that takes place from 7:30 to 9 as well. And everything happens all at once. We don't have different campuses. Everything is taking place at the same time.
So, for example, on the Sunday morning, you're saying now it's 9 to 11?
9 to 11.
Let's first talk about, there is an area where you can warm food or serve food. That's done when?
Right.
Before services?
So every morning, every Sunday morning before services, we have like a fellowship time when we get together, we drink coffee, we eat donuts, and that takes place before services.
And there's no food prep in that area?
There's no food prep. Everything is brought there. The only thing that we make there is coffee and donuts.
And you don't make the donuts, you bring the
No,
donuts?
we actually, well, I wish we could.
Okay, so then you have in this building, you have area for the Sunday school for the kids and all sorts of other functions. All the people are on site at the same time.
Same time.
And when the parents are in the church for the services, the children are in the basement?
Or in the basement.
Okay. So the number of parking spaces that we're proposing for the site, you're comfortable with accommodate your use?
Yes, absolutely.
The other question we had was the baptistry, how do you say it?
Baptistry.
Baptistry, which is on the 3rd floor.
On the 3rd floor.
In my religion, we're used to babies being baptized on a Sunday with a bunch of people coming
Right.
to church. That's not what you're doing there.
No, we don't dunk infants. What we do is we baptize children, mainly when they become teenagers. That's when we baptize them, and our baptism should be quarterly, but lately we've been having them maybe once a year. Is our baptisms.
And when is that done as it relates to the other activities?
That would be usually done on a Saturday afternoon.
All right, so not during the peak Sunday?
No. That's usually, baptism is usually done on Saturday afternoon.
And then Brian described the outdoor activity, that tailgate party.
Right.
Can you just explain what happens there?
So every first Sunday of football, and lately it's been very sad. It's been very sad because all the teams that get together, they're all a bunch of losers. So our church is very heavy on football. So we use tailgate party as a means to reach out to our community. We invite our friends. They all come in. And basically what we do, each booth prepares a different kind of food. And we go around and share our food one with the other. And that's basically what tailgate party is.
And that's one time a year?
One time a year.
And no other outdoor activity?
No, we have no other outdoor activity.
You heard the comment about the garbage and the need for additional garbage facilities.
Yes.
And enclosing it in the fence. You're okay with that?
Absolutely.
And then, did you have any input on how that tandem, and you may not know the answer to this, so don't guess, but the tandem parking that was being discussed, were you familiar with that?
No, I don't have a clue what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the existing church, or the building that's all the way, the older building all the way on Church.
Uh-huh.
We talked about you you weren't going to make any improvements to that, except that you did have intentions to replace the windows.
Yeah, those windows came with the building, and they're pretty bad. So we do want to improve the aesthetics of the building to somewhat match the new building. So the windows are a must.
Okay, but other than that, you're not making any changes?
We want to preserve that building. I have a lot of families from Howell that grew up in that church, and they very often come to the church asking me, do I have a registry for the graves? Which I don't. But they walk in the building and they sort of reminisce because they grew up in that particular building. So we want to preserve that building for the generations of these families that grew up in that building.
Now, when if this were approved and a new church is built, what would the old church be used for?
I'm going to give that to our youth ministry. We have a very vibrant youth ministry. So I'm going to turn that over to them so that they can do what they do.
And what day of the week or frequency of that activity?
Okay, so currently our youth meets once a month on Fridays. So my youth pastors are here. So once I turn over the building to them, they should be able to meet once a week, every Friday. And don't y'all even think about asking for a salary.
Okay, I had no other questions of Pastor Glenn, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Pastor Wilson.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
My concern is I've seen so much growth with the Wawa, the Walmart, and the heavy traffic that's coming down Kent Road, and I would just ask that when we talk to your traffic engineer and work with the professionals, we do something to slow that traffic down so none of our patrons at the church are in harm's way. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any questions for the pastor?
Yes. I think you mentioned it already, but the classrooms, when are they going to be utilized?
Classrooms are utilized simultaneously with our morning service.
And what are they utilized for?
The classrooms?
Yes.
To teach children of different ages.
Sunday school.
Sunday school.
Sunday school.
Sunday school.
Okay. That's my only question right now.
Okay.
Glenn? Rich? Good?
I have a quick question. So Pastor, something that I know other churches have implemented in the past, including my own, do you currently have any staff that helps with traffic, things
Absolutely.
like that? Okay.
Absolutely. I have a great security team, and they manage the parking lot on Sunday morning. I don't know if I'm free to say that. Currently, we're no longer meeting here on Sunday mornings because we have somewhat outgrown this building. So on Sunday morning, we're meeting in Lakewood at the Methodist Church temporarily. But when we were here, we had our security team helping people cross the road, and they do a fantastic job.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Actually, Pastor, I did have another question. The hall, I think that's on the third floor?
Yes, sir.
With the baptistry? What else would that be used for? Anything else?
That-
Any gatherings, parties?
Birthday parties, any fellowship activities within the church, we will do it up there.
Okay, is that going to be rented out to non-parishioners or what was that?
Currently, we don't plan to use that as a rental facility.
So you mean that's a possibility?
No, not at the current. You're going to get me in trouble with my elders.
Yeah, no, it's
But currently, we do not have any plans. We have not discussed any plans to rent any part of our facility.
So if that were to change, then they would wind up having to come back to modify their approval to allow for that, and there would be more detailed information that would be necessary at that time.
And the multipurpose room downstairs in the basement, would also be used for parties or?
The multipurpose in the basement, sometimes children don't go to the classrooms on Sunday, so they have a large gathering. And that's the reason for that multipurpose. That's all children's ministry down there.
That's all children ministry?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Pastor, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
we have a couple questions over here.
Oh, okay.
I just have, for clarification, when you first stated that you have 3 meetings per week, is that the service, the Bible study, and the prayer service?
Yes.
So it's not 3 services on Sunday, it's just
No,
one
no.
service on Sunday?
Just one service on Sunday.
Okay, so the 3 is Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's all I have, but you had a question, right?
Yeah, so, the hall space, so there's no intent right now to rent it. Do you, is there any intent, like, if someone has a wedding at the church, to use that space for, like, the gathering thereafter, for, like, a reception?
The reason why I hesitate to, because currently we have never done that. We have a hall now in our annex building, and that has never been used for any. So I hate to say never, that's never going to happen, but that has not been discussed, to use that space as a rental facility or for weddings.
Okay. The reason I asked the question, like, you might have more visitors on those type of events. You might have outside vendors, DJs, lighting, videographers, and things like that for those type of events. So, for the parking, it just brings that into question, especially with what's being proposed doesn't necessarily comply with what the ordinance requirements are. And obviously, we'll get to the traffic engineer, because when we do the parking calculation, we do the totality of everything in the floor plan, right? So not all the spaces are functioning 100% at the exact same time, but at least for the church portion, I think there's 318 seats. Our ordinance requirements is like 1 per 4 seats, so it's like 80 some odd spaces. And they're only at 55 in the actual parking area, so I think we need to just maybe, if there's any intent to have weddings and things like that, we need to maybe talk about that a little bit further and how that might impact parking.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, as Jen indicated earlier, if they're going to ever have rentals for weddings or anything else, we would agree we'd come back so we can give you operational details, how it's going to park, how it's going to operate, because we're not prepared to do that. They've never discussed it, so.
Got it. It's all good.
So, and then 2 more questions. Do you have any arrangements or agreements with any neighboring property owners for like parking, shared parking services or anything like that?
Yes, sir. We currently have a written agreement with the Goddard School across the street. We've been using their parking space now for, I want to say about 10 years, and they use our parking space as well whenever they have. So we have that friendly agreement for about 10 years now.
Is there like a current like time frame on when it may expire, or is it in perpetuity kind of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of open forever.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18. So I just want to give the board some additional clarity. So there's anywhere from, say, 30 to 40 parking spaces in the Goddard across the school, right? The daycare is probably not operating on a Sunday morning when they're having services, so when we get to the traffic engineering and how this functions with another site, I just want to give that board that context. The last thing I will just ask a question about is, I think there's a space on the architecture plan for a food pantry. Are you operating where people come and get free meals, and how often and how many people come for those kind of things?
So this came about during COVID. During COVID, our church was chosen as a facility to give food. So the food pantry came about during that period of time that we received a lot of goods from the state, and we were feeding our community every Saturday, I believe. That has not been functioning. After COVID, everything sort of went back to normal, but we do want to have on our facility a pantry, because every now and then we do get families that come and knock on our doors looking for food. So we want to keep that pantry staffed in case we need to serve in that manner.
And that pantry, You give them food to take home, not to serve
No,
on
no,
site?
no, mainly it's all canned foods, canned goods to take home.
So is there any organized scenario where, you know, on a Friday afternoon, the food pantry's open and individuals can come? And the reason I ask this, because I work in Neptune and next to Fulfill, and during the holidays, the cars are backed up to the point where it has blocked off the entirety of Route 66. So understanding how that's going to function is important because it could be impactful to, you don't have a lot of parking on site, and then if it bleeds out onto Kent Road, it could be problematic. That's the only concern I would have.
So our facility has not been used. MTN, Meet to Need, used our facility as a satellite facility during COVID. But that operation has not been moved to freehold. So whatever goods we have now are things that MTN left at our facility. But our facility has not been used as a feeding facility. If another emergency should come about, we are more than willing to serve, and if we have to get advice on how to better serve, we're more than willing to do so. But currently, we are not operating at that magnitude.
And then the last question, you guys have like a worship band
Yes.
services? And the architect will talk about like if there's any treatment just for sound and things, just because there's residential, you know, and stuff like that to the rear. He'll talk about that, the
You
architect.
keep in mind that band has been playing in this old building with no insulation, and we have never had an issue with the neighbors.
Okay.
So I believe the new building will improve that.
Is that only during the Sunday service?
Just Sunday,
So like 9 to 11 in the morning?
yes.
Cool, that's all I have.
Pastor Wilson, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And all I ask is that you guys give us the opportunity to keep serving.
Amen.
I've had in the last 30 years. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Pastor. Thank you. We're calling our architect.
The architect first. Okay.
Why, you want to hear traffic?
Traffic's
I think
important.
architecture could be pretty quick.
Yeah, it's going to
Okay.
be fast. Rick, you're being sworn in.
You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name for the record, spell your last.
Sure, it's Richard Tokarski, spelled Tokarski. I'm with the firm of Tokarski Millman Architects, located in Wall, New Jersey.
And you're a licensed architect, state of New Jersey?
Yeah, I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I've owned and operated my own firm for the last 24 years. I'm a graduate of the NJIT School of Architecture.
We accept your credentials.
Thank you.
Okay.
And A20 is the architectural plans that you prepared and submitted. There's a colored rendering, I think that's before that, right?
Yep.
So, and you could describe that generally, but before you do that, there are technical comments raised within the planner's report primarily from Jennifer that she wants some additional revisions to this. You've reviewed that and you're okay with complying as a condition of approval?
Yes, I do. And I know she's talking specifically about the rear elevation, which was left rather blank.
Yes.
We kind of maybe misinterpreted the ordinance in terms of visible facades. Because it was facing the cemetery in a tree line and buried, we figured it wasn't too visible, so we didn't spend too much money back there, but we can definitely address it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't mean to cut you off or to hamper your testimony in any way, but I feel like, thank you for coming, because your plans are far and away a welcome relief from what we had seen with respect to this application prior. We do require treatment around all four facades. Now, I'm not looking to break the bank. I understand this is a church, so I think if you would just agree to work with my office on those blank sections, and we can come up with something that would kind of meet the intent of what we're trying to accomplish, but not be crazy and in terms of expense, I think we could come up with something that would satisfy the intent of the ordinance. You'd still require the waiver, because technically you require like bump outs and fenestrations, which I am not intending to require, but just something along some of those blank facades that may help to break up like the massing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to work with your office and the town to come up with something acceptable.
So, I mean, Mr. Chair, unless you guys have specific architectural questions, I think the architecture that has been proposed here is, I don't know if you remember what was proposed with the initial application, but this is definitely very much welcome. It shows a lot of care has been given, and there's minor little things that we need to work out.
So I just have one question then, Jen. Is the windows are going to be replaced on the old building, right? They're going to look similar to what's here? Or are we going?
I would tend to doubt it.
So, you know, how are we going to blend that in so that it,
I mean, I don't know that they're going to marry each other. I think they're kind of complement each other.
complement each other? Okay,
There's going to be appropriately stylistic to that architecture of that building.
very good.
I mean, that building is very old, and, it, you know,
It's
it,
100+ years old, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to match that exactly.
Right, exactly. A modern storefront would not look necessarily appropriate on this building, but we'll make sure it's aesthetically pleasing.
Okay. Anybody
So,
have any?
The only other thing, I guess,
Oh, yeah.
is the height and the
Yeah.
steeple. So let's talk about that. We need to go back, thank you. So can you describe the height of the building, the steeple?
Sure.
What
So-
kind of relief we need?
Right, so the height of the building from the ground level to the actual roof level is 42 feet. The reason being that we do have 3 stories, they're communal spaces, and at an early stage of design, it's very hard for an architect to say, okay, how deep is the structure? We realized that what was presented previously didn't really leave enough room for mechanicals and structure. We do have rather large open rooms where they're communal rooms, so they have large spans, which creates more depth in the structure. We didn't want to paint ourselves into a corner where we couldn't build the building and have to come back for a height variance. So we left ourselves a little bit of ample room, so that what we're aiming for was basically 10-foot ceilings, which for a large space is kind of modest. We left 3.5 feet for structural depth, heating and air conditioning, the drop ceiling for each level. And the top of the roof behind this parapet that you see here would be 42 feet. We did a 30-inch parapet to help screen any rooftop units that are up there, so we wouldn't have to see rooftop units and screening. Kind of made a more harmonious exterior.
And that parapet is not usable space, it's just to shield the...
Rooftop units,
Down.
right, so you wouldn't see it. The other thing I wanted to address is this piece in the middle it's more of a modern architecture. This is a modern interpretation of what a steeple is. There's... Sorry. Yep. So basically, this is a double height space through here, letting light into the interior. The upper area does not have any working floor space. It's really an architectural element like of what a steeple does, is it draws your focus to the entry and the front of the building.
What's that height?
The peak of the steeple is at 50 feet.
And we'll defer to the board on whether you want that lower to match the
Well,
ceiling.
what's the steeple on the Coptic?
We're trying to figure that out. I mean, it's definitely higher than 40 feet, because the parapet's at 40 feet, right? Plus or minus?
Yeah, so, I mean, this isn't engineering documents that I'm looking at. Near map, it's a third-party aerial program. They give oblique and they can kind of approximate. They've got these like arched parapet walls and stuff like that. They're like anywhere 38 to 40 feet. That's not including the domed
That's what
steeple, which is even higher.
Well, and those type of amenities, if you remember, even from like Christ Church on Oakland Road, they're exempt from the height requirement.
Yes.
So I would suggest that, I mean, the top of the parapet, even though it's not the ceiling height, to mass, that does count towards the height. And I know Justin is here and is going to give testimony with respect, because the height is in excess of what's permitted and would require a D variance for the height. So I know he's here to discuss the conditions as well as the conditional use criteria, as well as the height variance. So, but that, I mean, it's an unusual steeple. It's not something that we typically see, but I'll go with it. And so at the end of the day, we do exempt out those architectural amenities, especially for houses of worship. So I would say just at the top of the paragraph.
Thank you, Jen. Board members, for the architect?
The one thing just before you run off, are you going to propose any kind of sign or cross or any kind of like something on that steeple? And the reason I'm asking is that if you are, I would perhaps do it now as opposed to do it later, because I think it's an easier path for you to do it now. And if that's something that you are thinking about, perhaps asking the board for it and then committing to work with our office, my office and Charlie's office, if the board acts in the affirmative, to come up with something of the appropriate size and scale. But I think what would generally happen, it probably is bigger and higher than we would typically allow. So you would need relief for the signage. So that's why I'm bringing that up. Otherwise, if you wait, then you might wind up back here.
No, that's appreciated.
Right.
Rick, do you know the answer to the cost?
We would not be attaching any kind of cross element to it. The symbolic cross is actually embedded into the architecture on the steeple. There's an abstract cross kind of built into the architecture, so that, we're leaving that as the architecture signage in the steeple. This is not a traditional church in the sense of the white steeple church on a hill with a fence. They are a community-based church. They're they have a lot of community outreach, and it was the intent of the pastor to create a building that isn't stereotypical church, that it welcomes the community and functions and operates, within the community. So.
Okay, and then as far as signage,
Well, they're saying they're not going to propose it.
you're not going to have any signage at all?
We may need a small sign that would be, compliant with the ordinance.
There is a sign, okay.
Freestanding sign.
Yeah, there's an existing sign up near the intersection.
Right.
It's gonna remain.
Okay, and that'll be it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay.
The only question I have for the architect, and we talked about the worship band and things like that, so like, is there any special provisions for like acoustic treatment in the inside of the structure or anything like that?
Yeah, internally, we're going to need an acoustical engineering design done for the interior. Those are usually sound absorbed panels. When you have a live worship band, you can't have hard surface inside, so a lot of those materials will absorb sound. The other thing is, over the last couple of years, the energy codes have really pushed the insulation values in buildings like up through the roof, and the walls are very thick with insulation. It's going to have dual pane insulated glass, so it'll be light years ahead of what's there on the site now with no complaints, and it will acoustically contain almost all the sound internally.
Yeah, so compared to the 100-year-old structure, it's going to be a drastic improvement. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Any other questions? We're good? Mr. Alfieri?
Before the witness leaves, Mr. Alfieri, is this A23?
No, that's part of A20, it was the
Oh, it's
rendering
part of
and the floor
A20.
plan.
Okay, just so we're clear.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Karski.
Thank you.
John Ray. John?
Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell your last.
John Ray, R-E-A, a licensed professional engineer with McDonough and Ray Associates, 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan, New Jersey.
And John, we're seeking to have you qualified as a traffic expert. I know you've testified everywhere, but just briefly place your credentials on the record, please.
I'm a licensed professional engineer. My specialty is traffic engineering. I can now say I've been in the traffic engineering field for 50 years. January 24 was when I first started, so...
94.
What did I say?
74.
74.
74.
Yeah, unfortunately 74. So, I have an undergraduate degree in civil engineering from NJIT.
We'll accept your credentials, Mr. Ray.
Thank you, John.
And I counted cars for a living.
So, John, you did a traffic report study some time ago that was submitted in support of the application, and I know you've since updated your counts. Can you describe for the board what you did previously, what you've done since, and then give the board your conclusions we're talking about just traffic and site circulation for now, and then we can talk about parking.
Sure. Well, I have been involved with the project since 2020, and as the board knows, the project has evolved into what's being presented tonight. Originally, I believe I was looking at a plan that had, it was a smaller main sanctuary of about 175 seats. I have simply updated my traffic study to include the new sanctuary area of 318 seats. I updated the traffic counts. We actually just did updated Sunday morning traffic counts, Sunday, May 5th, just last week. And we updated, I updated the analysis, and basically what I assumed was that the church would grow, as Pastor Glenn has indicated. Right now, they typically get between 100 to 150 people at a typical Sunday service. They typically generate between 40 and 50 cars under the current situation. Of course, the new plan is going to provide for some growth, which hopefully will happen. What I basically utilized in order to do my traffic projections, I looked at the Howell Township ordinance requirement of 1 parking space for every 4 seats, and I assumed that the entire sanctuary of 318 seats would be filled on a Sunday morning service, and that would generate a need for 80 parking spaces. So I assumed 80 cars would be exiting the site during the Sunday morning peak hour. And as Pastor Glenn indicated, the church does have an agreement with the daycare center across the street. I don't believe it's the Goddard School anymore, but it is still a daycare center. They have 32 parking spaces across the street. And so what I assumed was that approximately 65 cars would exit from the main parking lot on the church side of Kent Road. The other 15 cars would exit from the daycare center parking lot on the other side of Kent Road. And I know the board has heard traffic engineering testimony before. I projected the traffic volumes out to a design year of 2027 with a finding that the exiting movements to Kent Road from both the daycare center exit and from the church exit, and they're lined up opposite each other, would do so at level of service B, which is a good level of service, during the Sunday morning peak hour. I also analyzed the intersection of Church Road and Kent Road. That's a very busy intersection. As everybody well knows, there's a very heavy right turn movement from the eastbound Church Road onto southbound Kent Road. A lot of people are heading down toward the Walmart and to the traffic signal at Lanes Mills Road. And I analyzed that intersection as well, and that will operate at level of service C during the morning peak hour when the church is experiencing its maximum parking and traffic. So at the end of the day, I've updated my analysis to conform with what's being presented to the board tonight, the increased size of the sanctuary, the updated traffic counts, and I can report that the levels of service which relate to the delay that motorists will experience exiting the church parking lot to Kent Road and exiting Church Road to the Kent Road intersection will operate within acceptable traffic engineering parameters. I also did look at the parking, and I've discussed this with Mr. Murphy, and I think we're willing to give up the 2 tandem parking spaces that seem to be causing some concern. We understand what that concern is. We can give those 2 tandem parking spaces up, but I also think I heard Mr. Murphy indicate that we would be installing 2 EV, electric vehicle charging spaces. And technically, because we get credit for 2 spaces for every 1 EV space we install, we still have 65 parking spaces.
Okay.
And we have 32 across the street at the daycare center. So the parking that we do have in the event of a large event, or even during a typical Sunday morning service when all 318 seats are occupied, we're going to have 97 parking spaces. We believe we're only going to need 80, so we do have adequate parking.
Now,
And, okay.
But, and the technical reading of the ordinance with all the component parking counts even result in a higher demand?
Yes.
But can you explain why that should not be the standard we use?
Because the ordinance requires the parking to be calculated cumulatively with everything that's going on in the church happening at once. And as Pastor Glenn indicated, that's not the case. Clearly, the peak parking will occur during the Sunday morning services. That's when we need the maximum amount of parking, and the other uses within the church won't be used at that point in time during the Sunday morning services. But yes, we technically do need that relief.
And the 18-foot wide one-way driveway to the north, that's operates properly since it's only one way.
It's going to be one-way entrance only. I have no issue with the 18 feet. That's a typical width for a one-way road that's operating without two-way traffic, just one-way entrance only. So I believe that's acceptable.
Okay. That's all we have, Mr. Ray, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ray? So ingress, egress. Ingress, Kent, egress, Church. Now we're moving it to the center of the property,
Correct.
all right? So the right-hand turn coming on the egress side back out onto Kent Road. The concern is, they're flying over there, right?
Yes, so what I will say is, from a traffic perspective, what they have now is certainly a better situation than what currently exists there. Right now, it's a one-way driveway on Kent Road out onto Church Road. So you've got...
That's existing.
Existing, yeah. So it's like people flying down Kent Road and then making the right turn onto Church. If someone's coming out of the driveway there now, if they're going really fast, they might not see that person. So that access on Church Road is being completely eliminated. It's only emergency purposes for fire truck. They're moving the entrance on Kent Road even further away from the intersection.
Yes.
So you've got a little bit more separation from the intersection, so I think that improves it. My concern is just still that residential driveway. I think with signage, what I'm most concerned about is, I don't know if, John, if the site you have the site rendering? Yeah. So between the residential, the rectory driveway and then the two full movement driveway, you've got the bay of parking spaces. If there's a backup at the site driveway, letting out of services, then does someone try to go the opposite way and then come out of the residential driveway? And so do not enter signage there.
We can post do not enter signs.
Yeah.
And one-way arrows on the pavement indicating that it's an entrance only, along with the do not enter.
Correct. So, and then this came up on another house of worship application we had recently with, that one was pedestrian access from the neighborhood across the street. This one is a little bit different because they're kind of relying on the commercial property across the street to kind of help with their parking deficit. There's not really any crosswalks or
Can we put the MTCD signage in place?
We could certainly, it's a zoning board application. We could require them to put like a landing pad on the other side of the street and some pedestrian crossing signage at the crossing, stripe a crosswalk, and then just some advanced warning signage. I think that would be prudent, especially I've heard a lot of comments about cars flying down Kent Road. Sunday mornings might not be, Monday, Friday, peak hour, morning, evening, but, anything we can do to improve pedestrian safety, I think is a good thing.
I was anticipating that question, and yes, we can install the pedestrian crossing signs, a crosswalk, and the advanced warning signs in accordance with the MUTCD is the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. We can do that.
Excellent.
And John, I think I don't know what's respectful, if it's Pastor Wilson or Pastor Glenn. I think he indicated that you do have an arrangement with the police department, right? In the event that you have people parking across the street to help safely cross the individuals from the daycare parking to this site. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's why I brought Pastor Glenn back up. You did mention you have private security, but can you elaborate on what that means? It's not Howell Police Department.
No, I have a retired state trooper, Harry Cook, and he runs my entire traffic situation. They do not allow left turns out of that Church Road exit.
But that's going to be closed off. I think the concern is, in the event that you have a higher volume day at your service than your parking lot can accommodate, and individuals have to park across Kent Road in the daycare parking, which I 100% agree, that in the evenings and then on a Sunday, the daycare center is not operating. But I'm not going to implicate myself, but I will say that I have witnessed from my car people flying down Kent Road. And I would just be concerned that, if you have a family with young children that are trying to cross from the east side of Kent to the west side of Kent, that's what I think Mr. Ray had indicated with the crosswalk and the advance warning sign, so it's like if you press the button, the sign is gonna, in advance of the crosswalk, right, John, that'll flash or what have you. I just didn't understand if the security was designed to not only deal with the car traffic, but the pedestrian traffic coming to the facility from the other side of Kent
And
Road.
it's for both, right, pedestrian? But we would agree, if the board were to grant the approval, that we will contact the police department, we'll coordinate with them and our private security and make sure if they want to supplement it in any way, we have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Right, Pastor?
Yeah, and,
And just foot traffic safety as well, right?
Correct. So-
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, yes.
And we've heard a similar testimony on the other house of worship, like the Easter, Christmas Eve, that kind of stuff, that's higher frequency or attendance, so it would be maybe how PD on those occasions, maybe it's warranted.
Right, and
so.
Pastor Glenn indicated that they have a permission from the police department currently to stop traffic for the pedestrians, but that's, I guess, an informal agreement, but we'll formalize whatever we do with the police
And with the empty,
I think that, coupled with the crosswalk and the
Crosswalk.
advance warning, I think that's a great solution. And I would venture to guess that it's only on an infrequent basis that you're using that overflow lot. So in those instances, we just want to make sure people aren't getting hit by cars, that's all.
Unless the congregation grows to fill the 318-seat sanctuary, we're not going to need the parking across the street on a regular basis, because they're getting 40 to 50 cars under the current situation, and that can be contained on the main lot.
okay. Okay, board members?
The parking across the street,
Yes.
I don't know, they might have said it before, but that's like an informal agreement, is that correct?
I think there's a written agreement.
I have a letter that I'm going to give to the board. I'll read it for the record, though. It says, this is from StarCap Holdings, who's the owner of property across the street. This letter shall certify that StarCap Holdings and our tenant, Play Point Preschool, located at 65 Kent Road, Howell, have a parking accommodation arrangement with our neighbors at 2 Church Road. We allow Restoration Family Worship Center to use our parking lot for overflow parking whenever they have services. We in turn may use their parking lot during our normal business operation Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. All special events are coordinated not to conflict with these schedules.
Hence the crosswalk, the signage, that'll work. It'll be in everyone's best interest,
That'll
right?
benefit the daycare center as well.
Yes.
Hey, Sal, what happens if the
Yeah.
ownership changes?
Yeah.
And then they don't want to share parking?
That's a common problem that they'll have to find some alternative way of handling it. If the congregation grows beyond what the parking lot can accommodate, they're going to have to handle it. We should mark that, Andy. We're up to A23.
A23.
Ms. Scottson?
I just had a question, because I'm looking at the maps. Was one of the letters for the buy and sell sent to 22 Tioga?
Yes.
Okay.
It was sent to 42 Kent, 22 Tioga, and 265 Princeton Avenue in Brick, because that's where the property owner is
Exactly,
now,
yeah.
but not-
Yeah. And they didn't respond?
No, let me just make sure. Someone did respond.
Because that would have been perfect.
No, they did not.
Okay. All right, thank you.
John?
I just have a question as, for the one event that's on the record for Football Sunday, it being a tailgate party, how does the flow of traffic, how is that affected by people hanging out in the parking lot? Is it going to be towards the northern end, southern end? Is there like a designated area so that we don't have cars riding through, because it looks like a pretty tight fit to begin with?
Yeah, Pastor Glenn may be better able to answer that. I've been to many tailgates up at the Meadowlands for Giant games, and you just put the grill in an unused parking space, and that's how generally it works, but I don't...
So, did you hear the question?
It's in the grassy area.
Okay, go ahead.
Currently, when we do the tailgate parties, we mainly use the grassy area. to keep the center open. So we don't block the pavement area.
It's my only concern. I just wanted, like I said, much like the crossing over on Church, pedestrian safety, and especially with kids running back and forth, the last thing I would want to see is, if true tailgate is in the middle of the parking lot, like in Giant Stadium, as long as you have a plan and they're considered in that traffic plan, I'm okay with that.
Thank you,
So-
John.
I defer to Pastor Glenn.
And then just a comment for the board too is, the availability of parking is also gonna kind of dictate, like, how many people can actually come to this site, right? There's not a whole lot of available, it's not like we have 8-foot shoulders with a curb where people can be parking along the street. There's not a whole lot of, like, residential subdivisions in close proximity, so, like, the site itself and across the street is almost gonna self-regulate and dictate, like, the actual usage
Absolutely,
and
Charlie.
parking demands,
Absolutely.
so.
I mean, maybe they encourage people to park across the street so the parking spaces are freed up for barbecuing.
That would be the way to do it.
Do they have a no parking along Kent Road right in front of the church?
There's no parking allowed along Kent Road.
Okay, okay, I just wanted to make sure that's,
There's no shoulder, the shoulder isn't wide enough.
okay.
What's the speed limit on Kent Road? I believe it's 35.
No, they do 50.
Well, if there's a cop there directing
Yeah.
pedestrians.
Just to go a little bit outside of testifying for the church, Kent Road is a municipal road, and one of the things that can be effective in slowing traffic down, the solar-powered flashing speed limit thing that tell you what speed you're doing. I know there's one on Lakewood Road by my office. I see it all the time because it's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and if you're doing 27 or 30, it flashes, tells you what speed you're going, but that would be something that the town would have to install. I don't think they're very expensive, they're solar-powered, that might be of some help.
They have wandering one, the township has a
Yeah,
mobile.
but they also have permanent ones that you can install that are just solar-powered.
On the speed limit sign,
Yeah.
right? Like-
Yes,
like the speed limit
on the
sign.
speed limit, yes.
Actually, at the school, if it's, I don't know if they can do it for church hours, but at the school, they make people slow down to 25.
Yeah, we have a flashing one in front of Ramtown.
They don't generally do that for houses of worship, but I think perhaps should the board act in the affirmative on the application, perhaps we can, whether it's Charlie, myself, or Andy, write a letter to the governing body requesting they look into perhaps putting something like that on the speed limit sign. Because I will tell you, it is effective when you're hauling in at 55 and it's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, and they're like flashing, like, violator.
Especially Arnold Boulevard as well. That's another one.
Yeah. So it's something that maybe the township should look into.
I agree.
100%. Yeah, because you also have the school, you have the preschool on Kent, so it would make sense to potentially put it there anyway.
I'd like to also state for the record that in 30 years of service here, we have never had not even a near miss for the way that we control the traffic on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, not gonna.
Thank you, Pastor.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
One last witness, Mr. Chair.
we have the planner.
Planner, yes.
Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth,
I
to
do.
help you God? State your name for the record, spell your last.
Justin Auciello, Auciello, a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, Cafone Consulting Group, 125 Half Mile Road, Suite 200, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. So I've been a licensed planner since 2008. I've appeared in front of this board on multiple occasions. I have a master's degree in city regional planning from Rutgers University. I've appeared on multiple applications like this in the past. I've
You didn't go
appeared.
to NJIT?
I did not go to NJIT, and I do not have the experience of our traffic engineer.
We'll accept your credentials, Mr.
Mr.
Auciello.
Chairman, I hope you would have the same enthusiasm about a Rutgers graduate.
Yes, I do. Okay.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
So, Justin, you briefly describe the variance relief that we require, and then place the necessary proofs on the record, please?
Right, I think it would be helpful just to refer to the letter from Ms. Beam dated May 7th. A variance for conditional use is required. As the board is aware, the standard for a conditional use variance is a showing of whether or not the site can accommodate the deviations. Very briefly, they are listed, the variances that are required are listed on page 3 of the letter. You know, the engineer, you know, he went through the reasoning for the variances, but just briefly, of course, as the board is aware, this is a, you know, undersized site. We did do buy-sell letters. There is no interest in anyone selling to achieve, you know, trying to grow the site. But I think the engineer, you know, was very clear that through his testimony that the site will be able to accommodate the improvements that are proposed. I think importantly in terms of land use and planning context, I always like to see when my client complies with the coverages, the impervious surface in the building. I think that goes a long way to the proof that a site, despite the fact that there's relief required for the lot area, can accommodate as well. You heard testimony from Mr. Murphy about the minimum setback from the street line. 75 feet is required. I'm sorry, 85 is required, and the proposed setback is 73.5 from the existing right-of-way and 60 feet after the easement dedication. Obviously, as you heard from Mr. Murray, the shape is oddly shaped. This is a unique site with a cemetery which has been on the site for a long time. And those are really kind of the hardships that are really driving this variance. Continuing on to page 4, variance, proposed parking lot is located in required setback. Again, this is, in my opinion, this is really driven by the nature of the site, what's existing on the site, and obviously, you know, the need to improve the site to accommodate the church, which is a protected class of use, you know, inherently beneficial, of course. Continuing on, the existing nonconformities of the lot depth, nothing is changing. Again, the site will function fine, as you heard from Mr. Murphy. Front yard setback to the existing church, 75 feet is required, whereas 14.2 is existing. Again, a nonconformity, no impact from that. An additional D3 required is for the lot area for the house of worship. Again, I covered that. And then I think front yard setback has been covered. The height, as you heard from the architect, there is a reasoning for that, and the D6 standard is essentially a showing that the site can accommodate the excess height. I believe the architect put sufficient testimony on, gave great detail onto the reasoning for the height, and you know, that height not having any impact on the surrounding area. A variance is required, and now these are bulk variances for the stormwater basement in the buffer area. Again, you know, as you heard, you know, from the engineer, really these ancillary uses that are going to serve the main building, there's no other way to accommodate it on the site. It's just the nature of the site. I believe that given, you know, those factors, you know, that's a hardship, and I believe the board can feel.
You're not doing a storm.
I don't think the basin's still in the buffer. I think in this redesign, it got moved out of it.
Pulled out, great. So, one less variance to deal with. The required buffer shall contain a four-season buffer, 10 feet high, and a landscape berm at least 6 feet high. Again, I think the applicant, given, you know, the nature of the site, I think the applicant is willing to work with the board as well on that. You heard testimony from Mr. Ray about the parking and circulation. Variances are required for the parking. No loading of parking spaces shall be in the buffer area. A waiver is required. 30-foot circulation aisle must be maintained for emergency purposes, whereas a 25 feet aisle is proposed. Again, you heard testimony from both engineers about the ability of the site to circulate properly, to park properly, and again, these are really driven by the nature of the site and the cemetery, I think, which is driving that as well. Variance required for fences and walls, a board-to-board fence 6 foot high and located in the required 75-foot front yard setback. Again, there's no other way to accommodate this on the site. I think the board can feel comfortable with the granting of that variance. The architectural plans, as the board saw, I mean, they're aesthetically pleasing. I think this has really come a long way into coming to a solution that Ms. Beam and the board professionals like. And lastly, in terms of just purposes of zoning that are advanced, obviously, criteria A, this is an advancement of a general welfare. It's inherently beneficial. I think that goes without saying. This is a use that serves the community. Criteria G, there's sufficient space on the site to accommodate it, despite that, the limitations and the width and the depth and also the size and the shape. I think the engineer has done a great job to accommodate that. Criteria H, the free flow of traffic is going to be accommodated with this plan, as you heard from Mr. Ray, and the visual environment, which is I, certainly, as you saw from the architectural plans, it's aesthetically pleasing. And lastly, the negative criteria, my professional opinion, there's no substantial detriment to the public good associated with this application. I would offer that there are substantial improvements to this site from the existing condition, and what's proposed obviously is going to be respectful to the surrounding properties and also be a great benefit to the community. And lastly, I see no detriment to the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance, by virtue of having this use as permitted, subject to conditions, I think the board can feel comfortable that what's proposed will not impair your zone plan, the zoning ordinance, and the master plan as well.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. Jen?
I have no problem with the relief that's been requested. I think as the application has been presented, the concerns that we had relating to any of the site design or operations, the applicant has agreed to mitigate through various measures to comply with my concerns, Charlie's concerns, as well as Sherry's concerns. So I take no exception to the testimony that's been provided. And I do think that the biggest concern that I had was the crossing of Kent Road, and I think we've managed to mitigate that. So I have no problem with this.
Great. Board members? Go ahead, Rick.
So Sherry, everything looks good?
I still had some additional comments on landscaping, but Mr. Murphy did say he would agree to
Okay.
comply with all of them.
Yeah, I like the choices so far. That's fine with me.
No questions.
I forgot to ask one question earlier with regard to the staff parking. Is there any room whatsoever for them to expand the pad to make, instead of making it tandem?
It's really the driveway that goes to the house, so no. And if you push the parking spaces back towards Kent Road, you're going to be blocking the access to the parking field, so no.
Okay.
Okay. So,
That concludes our presentation.
I did have a
Mr. Chair.
question.
Oh, sorry.
I don't,
Of the planner or someone?
I guess it could be for the planner.
go ahead.
The approved, or what's going to be the approved fire lane markings, should those be on the plans themselves? Because I don't
Yes.
see them.
Yes.
They'll have to revise the plans for resolution compliance based on all the conditions and things like that.
Thank you.
Okay, so, we're going to open it to public.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
We got a motion to open the public.
And I will second
We
that.
got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Eileen?
The board will now be open to public. If you'd like to come stand up and state your name and address.
This is for questions of the professionals?
They're all with us.
Nobody has any questions. Quite the entourage there, Sal.
Not seeing any. Can I have a motion to close? We're gonna. Got all in favor?
Aye.
Eileen, we're
Board will
closed
now
to
be
public.
to public.
Yep. Okay, Mr. Alfieri, you got a summary for us?
Very briefly, Mr. Chair, thank you all for your time. I think that this has been a couple of years, this project. We've worked with the board professionals, even through tonight and the board's comments to address, I think, everything that the board or its professionals have raised as issues. Resolution compliance will take some work and effort to revise the plans and make sure we address everything. But otherwise, it's a great use, they're great people, and we'd request that the board grant the approval as proposed this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Alfieri. So then what's the pleasure of the board?
Yeah, and I have a
Question?
comment too.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be willing to concede the sidewalk contribution, given that that section is over a cemetery.
No,
The ordinance
they have to go to the
requires-
governing body to ask for that. We can't do
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah.
Well, we could request that they petition the governing body
That's,
for relief.
absolutely. But we can't do it. They would
Okay.
still need relief from us because it's not the full frontage, but they would have to go before the governing body to get relief. from it.
Gotcha, I'm just, nobody wants to walk on.
No, I 100% understand that. No, and I don't have a problem with them not putting it there at all. I just, if they, and I don't have a problem with the governing body waiving the contribution, but we just can't do it.
But we could request the governing body at
You
least.
could certainly have it in the
Consider.
resolution that
Put it
the
in the
board does not
resolution.
take issue
Yeah.
with if the governing body
think that's
were
a
to
great
grant
idea.
relief.
Yes.
So you would just have to request it from the mayor and
Fine,
council.
we could do that. Thank you.
Okay, good. And?
Mr. Alfieri, does the church own the land where the cemetery is?
Does the church own the land where the cemetery is?
Okay, that's we own the land, but the Methodist Church owns the cemetery. It's a very strange agreement that was made when we purchased the property. We own the land. The land is on our plot plan, but the cemetery itself, like we own from 6 feet below.
Okay.
There were,
So they essentially have like a perpetual lease for the plots.
Perpetual lease.
there was some concern,
We don't maintain it. They have their own people maintaining it. We don't sell no plots. We own the land, but the Methodist Church owns the
Yeah, Ocean Grove is like the same. The Camp Meeting owns the land, but then you get a 100-year lease or whatever.
there was some concerns on social media a few months back about stones, cemetery stones that were just piling up. There were names on them. They were just kind of discarded. Do you know about that?
Okay, so a gentleman named Mr. Thomas, he was the one maintaining the cemetery. I don't know if he died. I don't know, but I haven't seen him in a few. Pretty much for about 5 years, I haven't seen Mr. Thomas. I do know what you're talking about, of those stones piled up in the back, and I have no way of.
Yeah, because I went there myself when I saw it on social media, and I was
Yeah.
concerned and curious.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and
I
I did,
have-
it's a big pile of, and there's names on the stones and the years people died, and
Yeah, I haven't seen Mr. Thomas. Maybe he has joined the.
my curiosity is,
I would suggest, based upon the testimony that has been given, that that's a Methodist Church issue. That's not the subject of this application. So if somebody has concerns about that, they should reach out to the Methodist Church.
okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, so we've heard all the testimony. We've asked all the questions. And we're at the point of time where the pleasure of the board, we got 6 members here, and they're entitled to have 7. If there's a broad feeling that, we only need 6, okay, then what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the conditional use variance, preliminary, and final major site plan and bulk variance requested with all of the conditions and special provisions provided but recommended by our professionals and herein discussed and agreed upon.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
We have a second.
Ms. Scottson has seconded. Eileen, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Barillo?
Yes.
Mr. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Mertens?
I wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight, even though none of you came up, which I didn't think you would be, but anyway, thank you for coming, and just seeing you here makes it more easier for me to say yes as well.
Ms. Scottson?
I have to concur. It's an absolute blessing and amazing to see you guys here. So glad you came out to support, and I give an emphatic yes.
This is a long time coming, so I wish you all the best, and
Application is approved.
thank you.
Did the chairman vote? Did he vote?
No, I didn't vote.
I voted yes.
Your name, so thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal.